I talk baseball, I don't start with stats. I start with stories. Stories like Ted Williams. I never had the chance to see him play in person. Never stood in the bleachers at Fenway watching him step into the batter's box or felt the electricity in the air when he connected with a pitch. But I don't need to have seen him live to know the power of his legend. Ted Williams was a man whose presence in the game transcends generations and stretches far beyond the confines of the ballpark. I remember hearing about him from baseball lifers, from writers and old-timers who witnessed his greatness firsthand. They spoke of his swing as if it could cut through the very fabric of the game. It was a swing that lived on in the stories they told, and the crack of the bat that echoed through their memories. It was a sound that became as much a part of baseball's identity as the game itself. They told me about the way Ted could see the seams on a fastball, the way he could read a pitch like no one else before or after him. What I know about Ted Williams isn't just from the stats or the highlights, but from the stories passed down from those who had the privilege of watching him. The stories they shared gave me a sense of what it was like to watch the greatest hit of the game has ever seen, even though I never saw it for myself. You don't just watch a swing like his. You feel it. You remember where you were when you saw that swing cut to the ball like a razor in slow motion. Ted Williams didn't step into the world of baseball quietly. He walked in like he'd always belonged there. Before he was a splendid Splinter, the last man to bat 400 in 1941. In Major League Baseball, although Josh Gibson hit over 400 in 1943 for the Homestead Grays and the Negro Leagues, the legend frozen in bronze outside Fenway, he was just a skinny kid with wrists like piano wire and a bat that seemed too big for his hands. Born in San Diego in 1918, Theodore Samuel Williams was the kind of kid who couldn't stay away from the ball fields. His dad wasn't around much. His mom spent her days running Salvation Army missions. So Ted found his escape in baseball. He'd walk out to the playground with his glove, his bat, and his obsession. Every sound mattered. The crack of the bat, the thump of the ball hitting leather, those weren't background noise. That was music. He played with a chip on his shoulder and a telescope in his head. Ted had a long view. He knew he wanted to be the greatest hitter who ever lived. And when he said it, you believed it. He wasn't bragging. He was inviting you to watch. Ted Williams starred at Hoover High in San Diego, and scouts took notice fast. By 17, he'd signed with the Padres. Not the big league club, the minor league San Diego Padres of the Pacific Coast League. He batted .271 that first season, but it wasn't the average that turned heads. It was how loud the contact sounded. It was how pitchers already feared throwing him anything decent. He didn't chase. He didn't blink. He studied the art of hitting like a scientist who couldn't sleep until he cracked the code. A retired minor leaguer once who faced Williams in an exhibition game said, "That kid had a swing like a guillotine. Beautiful, but you knew pain was coming." By 1938, the Red Sox got their hands on him. But that move didn't just happen in a vacuum. It was a chain reaction sparked by word of mouth, box score buzz, and that thunderous sound off the bat that echoed all the way from Lane Field to the ears of Boston scouts. He wasn't showy. He was surgical. And fans took notice. The buzz was electric. Local writers started calling him the best prospect west of the Rockies. Old-timers would nudge each other and whisper, "Watch this kid. He's different." The Red Sox couldn't ignore it. Their scout, Eddie Collins, a Hall of Famer himself, watched Ted with a kind of reverent disbelief. After a few games, he didn't just recommend Williams. He practically begged Boston to sign him. What Collins saw wasn't just talent. It was clarity. Ted saw pitches the way most men see letters on a page. Clean, sharp, decoded. So Boston made their move. Traded for him in December of '37. And just like that, Ted Williams, the San Diego kid with chip on his shoulder and fire in his swing, was on a train headed for the big leagues. He was ready, and the game was about to change. A year later, Boston's love affair with Williams began in earnest. Rookie season, .327 average, 145 RBIs, 31 home runs. Baseball was electric when he was at the plate. He didn't hit pitches. He diagnosed them. It was like the ball slowed down for him and sped up for everyone else. He was as obsessed with perfecting the swing as a watchmaker is with gears. He hit .406 in 1941. That's not a typo. .406. This happened when pitchers were tough, travel was long, and batting cages weren't loaded with analytics. That number means something, and the story behind it matters more. Last day of the 1941 season, Ted's average was .39955. The Red Sox offered to sit him out to preserve the .400. He said hell no. Played both games of a doubleheader. Went 6-4-8. Finished at .406. Who does that? Ted Williams does. That season became legend. Kids reenacted his swing in backyards. Fathers told sons about the man who wouldn't take the easy road. The man who hit .406 because he couldn't live with shortcut. The world of baseball isn't just measured in numbers. It's measured in decisions. And Ted's biggest ones happen off the field. He served in 2 wars. Not 1, 2. In 1943, at the height of his powers, he joined the Navy, learned to fly, became a Marine pilot. He lost nearly 5 seasons to military service. Prime seasons, but he didn't complain. He believed in duty. And when Korea came calling, he answered again. He flew combat missions alongside John Glenn. That's the heart of Ted Williams. He wasn't playing for records. He played for something bigger than himself. But when he did play, he carved up pitchers like an artist with a palette knife. Ted Williams won 2 MVP awards, 6 batting titles, led the league in on-base percentage 12 times. And if you're a stats nut like me, listen to this. He has the highest career on-base percentage in history, .482. That's like getting on base nearly every other at-bat for 2 decades. Think about how insane that is. In 1942, he won the Triple Crown, .356 average, 36 homers, 137 RBIs. He didn't win MVP. Lost to Joe Gordon. Baseball writers, man, terrible. He did again in 1947. Triple Crown. No MVP. You think he didn't care? He cared about hitting. He cared about teammates. He cared about getting it right. But awards? Recognition? That was just noise. And yeah, he had a complicated relationship with the media. He didn't smile on command. He didn't pose for puff pieces. But if you asked him about hitting, he'd go for hours. Talked about seeing the ball seams. Talked about plate coverage. Talked about bat speed. I've listened to those tapes. It's like hearing Shakespeare recite poetry, except it's all about timing and torque. He hit his final home run in his final at-bat in 1960. Didn't tip his cap. Just jogged around the bases like he was on his way to pick up milk. That was Ted. Let the bat talk. Ted Williams didn't fade away. He stepped back into the dugout as the manager of the Washington Senators in 1969, a team that had long lived in the shadow of the league. But under Ted, they found a new edge. He wasn't a clipboard kind of skipper. He brought the same laser focus to managing that he brought to the batter's box. He preached plate discipline. He talked endlessly about pitch selection. He gave hitters permission to think, to calculate, to wait for their pitch. That season, the Senators finished with their first winning record in over a decade. Players didn't just respect him, they listened. When he moved with the franchise to become the first manager of the Texas Rangers in 1972, his passion hadn't dulled. He argued with umpires, he clashed with front offices, and he stood for the integrity of the game. He taught a new generation how to think the game, not just play it, think it. And every player who passed through his clubhouse carried a piece of Ted's gospel with them, a deeper understanding of what it meant to be great. He lived like his swing, precise, purposeful, beautiful in its simplicity. Step into any dusty sandlot or bright stadium tunnel and ask a real ball player who they studied. Not just watched, studied. One name rolls off the tongue before the question even finishes. Ted Williams. In the world of baseball, his name does more than pull weight. It swings like a thunderclap across generations. Ted Williams didn't merely play baseball. He etched it into the bones of anyone who loved it. He wasn't flawless. He was human, and that's what made him unforgettable. He played angry, focused, hungry, and he played like he had something to prove every day, not to the world, to himself. When you study the greats, when you get past the highlight reels and the trophy rooms, you find something deeper. With Ted Williams, you find a man who didn't bend for trends, who didn't flinch from pressure, and who knew, down to the stitch on the ball, what made a swing great. You find a Marine. You find perfectionist. You find a hitter who stared down greatness and demanded more. If you care about the game, if you care about the history stitched into the seams of every baseball, you have to understand Ted Williams. Because in the world of baseball, he didn't simply play the game. He changed how we see the game, and he's still changing it. Every time someone steps into the box and tries to do it right, he was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 1966 with over 93% of the vote. Even then, the stat sheets couldn't contain him. Ted wasn't just honored, he was studied. Every swing, every decision, every moment in the box became a blueprint. Coaches still use his approach to teach young hitters. Study the ball, know your zone, trust your swing, and work. Always work. He fished the way he hit, with obsession, with discipline. If you saw him cast a line, it looked like batting practice. Controlled, balanced, intentional. He wasn't built for idle time. Even in retirement, he moved with purpose. When he passed in 2002, the world of baseball paused. To reflect, to recalibrate, because with Ted gone, we lost a link to something purer, something raw, something that never cared for spotlight, only truth. So yeah, I talk about Ted Williams a lot, because he represents everything that makes baseball matter. The swing, the sacrifice, the stubbornness, the science. He wrapped it all into a career that keeps teaching, keeps stirring, keeps swinging. That's the power of Ted Williams. That's the story I tell, because some stories aren't meant to sit on shelves. They're meant to stand in the box, dig in, and swing like they've been waiting their whole lives for that pitch. That's it for today's episode of World of Baseball. If you like this, make sure to subscribe to my World of Baseball YouTube channel and follow me on Instagram at KPLifeInMotion for more real talk on the world of baseball. Both links are available in the description below.